Hey everyone, Douglas here, and welcome back to the MMT Macro Trader live stream. We're back at it. We are back at it. The chat, before I even got here, the chat already active, already live. Welcome, chat, as well. Bijou, man.
Thank you, man.
How you doing? I mean, I know how you're doing, but you tell us how you're doing.
No, I don't want to talk about sickness and the flu and the virus. It's just that to warn anyone is early here. You get a warning that I may do a few howlers today. Just my brain is a bit fuddled from having a virus, and I might sound a bit funny. Do I sound a bit blocked up?
Yeah, anyway, a little, but nothing terrible. Nothing terrible.
I was feeling like lethargic. Like I never really want to say to Douglas, I won't do live stream this week because it's always kind of good fun. You just got to remember it's going to be good fun. But leading up to it, I'm like a bit nervous. And like last night, I'm like thinking I'll have an early night, right? Because then I'll be nice and fresh. So I get up this morning and I'm looking at my clock and it's like, morning, but sort of the live stream's going to come pretty soon. So I'm thinking, I'll just catch a little bit more sleep because I'm feeling a bit bad for it. And I sleep way too long. I wake up and it's almost time for live stream. But then once you get on a live stream, you sort of have that adrenaline pick a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I just got to be careful of my voice. I don't want to lose my voice. Not that it matters because I don't have too many students this week, so I don't do much talking apart from these Wednesdays for you, Thursdays for me. This is the only time I really talk a lot.
Yeah.
My daughter, I used to talk a lot to my daughters, talk science or math or, people, music, culture. But nowadays with my daughter at school, being a new school teacher, she's got all the stories, bro. She's got all the stories, first year teaching. It's just what you think. It's just like, ADHD all over the place.
And I'm sorry, like what grade? Wait, which?
She's
what'd you say?
What the primary school, so the young kids.
Okay. Yeah.
Whatever the grades. 5 to 7 or something.
Yeah. Okay.
5 to 9.
Okay.
Yeah. It's our year 3 to 7 or something.
Okay.
3 to 4.
Yep.
Yeah. Early years. So, but they're just smart enough to be really cheeky, and the boys are just hard to control. And it's like hilarious. And they did some punching in the schoolyard, and there's some teacher who got a pencil, the eye poked with the pencil.
Jeez, Pete's, man. Kids.
I know. So anyway, that's the sort of highlight of our days now. When she gets home, it's like she's on a bit of a buzz, but she gets incredibly tired. I tell you, it's exhausting. But whenever she gets home, she's always sort of chatty about the latest sort of things going on over there. It's actually a good school. It's very, very good school in a quite wealthy area. But we have this theory. That there's this concentration of ADHD and autism here because in this area, I think we get quite a few. We get some government workers, but we also get some, because this is the capital city, but we also get some, IT professionals, sort of knowledge workers, or finance people. Yeah. It's this area. They're all autistic type parents, right, for these jobs. So we reckon his school's just got a load of these. Anyway, good to be here. Back on that only MMT.
Oh my God! Yeah, actually, for a brief moment, he started saying, "Oh, I think I'm the only one," but now he's back to the only one. So, very, very soon, guys. I promise. Very, very soon. Everything that the only guy who does MMT gives away will be completely free.
But yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's it. Real quick though. Hey Zeus, welcome. Michael, welcome. Eugenio, welcome. Anyone else in the chat yet? Drop in. Not yet, but if you drop in the chat, I'll say hi. So say hi. Let's see. Yeah. But we're close, man. We're close. The dashboard's coming along nicely. I believe our URL is now active. Let me check real quick to make sure it's up. There's nothing there other than I'm literally checking on my phone. There's nothing. Charles, what's up, man? Ty, say hi, Doug. Hi, Doug. Ty. Yeah. So we do have the URL active. It's just a quick splash, mmtmacrotrader.com. It is up there, but I don't exactly know how everything will ultimately land when it comes to how we're going to host the data and share the data and display everything that I want to display. But that is where it will end. 100%. Oh my God! So my wife, you guys have seen the yes ice cream, delicious, gang, yes. My wife joked that so on YouTube now you can do like hundreds and hearts and smiley faces and surprise faces and stuff like that, like little emojis. She said she was going to get on the stream and start hitting those emojis and see if I would do the NF or the what are they the NPC the NPC thing that's all the rage as I see them coming in heart thank you. Anyway, as you can tell,
what's the NPC thing?
What's her name? Pinky Doll is her name. 10-year treasuries. Yes. That's so great. Inverted yield curve. Recession coming. Yes. Slay.
Oh my gosh. This is not computing.
Yes. Oh, it doesn't compute for anybody who watches it. You're gonna find it. I'll send you. This is how great this stuff is, right? Because I was joking with my friends that I should put that stuff in the. Oh, that's so cool! It's showing up on stream. I didn't even see that because it shows up on the chat. Oh my God, that's so cool! The little floating.
It flows up.
Okay.
Yeah,
guys, we're supposed to be serious for the first 2 hours, and then hour 3 we can go off. But anyway, this is how fast like social media and everything happens. Because this is going to be like a nothing thing by next week. But I thought about putting. I mean, I assume chat. At least some of you guys are getting the gang reference and the yes reference. But I was thinking about doing something
I'm not at all.
Yeah, you're not. But I was kind of hoping to put something like that in the thumbnail. By next week, it's going to be too little, too late. But anyway, it gets a little cringe when like guys, older than 25 try and, not non-Zoomers try and keep up with the Zoomer trends. So I'll let the Zoomers have their fun and stay out of the way. But Bijou, I'll send you the link, man. I'll send you the link.
Send me the link. Yeah. Anyway, want to finish the
just like, dude, let's get back to like something important here.
Let's get back to reality here.
Yeah, let's get back to reality.
We have to say this is, despite the Norminator, this is the only place in cyberspace where you can hear about the ideas of infinite government, and hear high-class literary MMT poetry, and learn about the unit of monetarist stupidity, the gigavolca, and more to come.
We do have more to come. Couple things I want to talk about tonight. Let's see. Hopefully he doesn't watch. And I say that because what I want to do tonight. By the way,
he's not going to watch.
Yeah, you're right. I got a question, everyone. I realized that I did not. We were having stream issues. I was still on the backup server, and I did not change that this week. Let me know. It's giving me a warning that the compression of the stream is failing. Are you guys having any compression issues? Does the stream look good? If it does, and it looks, 1080p, whatever, it looks fine, looks sharp, I'll keep it going, won't make any changes, possibly disturb anything. But let me know. Let me make sure if the stream is looking good. Let me know. Okay.
5 second lag for me, but the quality is at the moment okay.
Okay. Cool. Ty, have I said hi yet to Ty? Ty, if I haven't, welcome. Monique, welcome. And then Charles, also welcome. Derek, welcome. Quality is blowing my mind right now. Good, man. Good. Let's see. Derek, I might have some questions for you tonight as well. I don't know if we'll get into that or not. I read over some of your literature that you sent me. I don't know if I fully digested it, but it is in the back of my mind. Anyway, I think if Bijou, if you're all right, we can kick things off with. I have been having some back and forths with Bob Murphy, and we're gonna maybe set up a debate, a discussion. It's been good from my perspective. He's asking fair questions and stuff, and we've been having a little bit of back and forth. MC, welcome. And so I've been doing a little bit of debate prep. It's been a while since I've really gone back to absolute bedrock MMT and kind of build up. So that's been fun to kind of go back to square one. But I have some questions of my own, and maybe chat can help me out. We can maybe
Definitely.
get into that a little later.
We should definitely get the chat in. Actually, while it's still early and people coming in, I've got a couple of mea culpas to do. Can I maybe get those out of the way? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's one thing when you said back of the mind, it reminded me one thing. Like, I keep wanting to get back to Derek's stuff too, to just absorb it a bit better. And also, like, do you remember like a few weeks ago? I don't know, maybe more than a few, but Shot in the chat during the Shot with the zero.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He said something like when we were going over the interest rate effects stuff, or the how they've got it backwards. One of those episodes. I know we do that all week, but it was one of those weeks where that was the main theme.
Yeah.
He said, you guys got something wrong in the chat early on, and I never got back to him. Her, him or her, but it looks like a him in the icon. I never got back to them about what we got wrong. So there's sort of a gap there in my, maybe we didn't get it wrong, or maybe we didn't mention it or whatever. And the other thing is last week I had to apologize to you and Ryan. I was taking the chance to have Ryan as our guest. He's more of a guest, more of a comrade now than a guest, I guess. But getting Ryan in there, I was looking at the chat way too much, and so I had to get you to repeat the question about Steve Key's credit stuff, and that was a bit unprofessional. And then when he asked something about some price, what was it for Uber or something, or losses? I just blurted out, it's got to be double that.
Yeah.
I'm just using my software thinking, right? You always double or triple the time that you think you're going to take on a project. So that was a bit unprofessional. I apologize.
Unprofessional. No, you were fine, man. We had a lot going on that night. It was good.
Probably going to happen today too. Just so you're aware.
Speaking of Ryan, real quick, he mentioned Carvana as a stock on his radar, and have you guys
right?
Have you guys seen? I forget. I got to pull that.
Showed him that.
Yeah.
Pull that.
This was hilarious. Is it CVNA? Is that Carvana? I don't know if you guys saw. Let's see what's happened to Carvana in the last week. Sorry guys, I wasn't prepared to switch screens quite yet. Give me 1 second.
That's all right.
1 second.
Just type in the chat. We need a listicle of favorite Austrians.
Oh yeah. Who's your favorite Austrian economist? Oh, this is so terrible, man. As you guys can see, I changed my setup a little bit, and I also rearranged my camera, so I'm not. Anyway, yeah. Nothing is now aligned in my OBS software. It's killing me. All right, I'm gonna transit. Okay, I'm aligned now. Anyway, here's Carvana up 40% today. What a call! One, Ryan and I, and Bijou and Adam, also the co-host of Applied MMT Podcast, we've been chatting quite a lot. He's been sharing just a ton of amazing knowledge that he has once we get a list of favorite Austrian economists, maybe I'll make a poll and then we'll vote. Yeah.
We'll see what we get.
Anyway, Ryan's got a ton of great knowledge. We're starting to work together. Once I get the whole MMTMacroTrader.com thing finished and we get that where we want it, him and I are definitely going to, start a little project together and try and figure things out. And certainly we want to get that out for consumption. But so yeah, I agree. He was great last week. We had a ton of fun. Super smart guy, I'm so excited for like the MMT brand as well. I mean, we're doing so many good things. We're all in it to win it too, and I think I was maybe a little down on just kind of the MMT brand, if you will, especially when inflation kind of kept sticking around and everyone was blaming inflation or MMT on inflation, even though we know that wasn't the case, but. Dude, MMT is winning again, and I get why the Bob Murphys of the world say that MMT is the biggest threat to liberty money happiness. Or whatever. Yeah, because dude, like we're freaking winning, man. We are freaking winning.
That raises the issue of suppose you do have an Austrian little commune or something that they're running their system. would they actually be happy? And all things going and blazing, or how would it actually work out? There's so much stuff that we've been flinging at Douglas behind the scenes, guys, girls, that it almost like is overwhelming. I was joking with Ryan and Adam that we give Douglas so much ammo that he just completely loses, because he just doesn't know which weapon to choose. Just like confused, like, oh, should I pull this one out? Should I pull that one out? But that's the kind of impression you get. Of course, it's all one-sided because we're not on Bob's team, so we don't know. Like, he might be thinking the same, right? So I don't know how these things go. I hope it's congenial and cordial though, and not like just a talk straight past each other.
No, I don't. No. I on the question so far, I think both of us really desire to make sure that we're going to engage with like the steel man version of their argument.
Steel manning.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of like segment it up. Like, okay, now let's talk Austrian school framing, and then, but let's not confound that. Let's switch to MMT framing and talk in that framework, because this is a classic debate thing that you get, right? And unless it's a high school debate that's carefully moderated.
Correct. And there's
If it's an actual sort of like a scientific conference or whatever debate, and you've got different sort of paradigms at the time, which is kind of rare, but it does happen. And this is a moment for macroeconomics. It's a total paradigm change moment that we're in. So like, I'm thinking the tectonic plate story way back in the 30s, 50s, and then the dinosaur story where they completely had to change from an old gradualist story of evolution to a sudden impact of the asteroid, blah, blah, blah. When you're in that paradigm change, you can easily slip. I think you just slip into talking straight past each other, because your mental model is so ingrained in your thinking. You're incapable of grasping what the heck MMT is. You just, even though MMT, to me, it's quite simple, right? Because I came at it from a non-economist point of view.
I agree.
It's so ingrained that you just cannot get out of the old guard of thinking. And so that's a thing that I'd be so pedantic and press on and on with that. It'd be so boring if I was doing it. But I just want to warn Douglas and give Douglas enough kind of sort of support for that. Is it going to be live streamed?
No. I don't think he does anything live. I think it's like a recorded podcast. I mean, I completely agree that you end up in your own pool for so long that, I don't know what the analogy is that I'm trying to come up with here on the spot, but yes, I mean, you hang out with your own crew. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like when you have like a sports team that you like, and everyone in your area is also a fan of that sports team. And then you meet a fan of the other person. You don't understand why anyone would like the other sports team. Right.
Yeah, it doesn't compute.
It just doesn't. Like, no, those are the bad guys. We're the good guys. But on top of that, you have a whole system and way of thinking built up. So it's been I don't want to say fun, but it's been helpful to go back and kind of relearn Austrian economics and try and understand what the hell it is that they're trying to communicate. It's been a long time, 10 years at least, since I really was steeped in the Austrian view. And I think I see where the delineating lines are. I don't know if you guys are up for it. Maybe we just, kind of do some of this right out of the gate. Austrians are the New York Jets of economics. Hey, Zeus, man. I freaking love it, man. I freaking love it. Here's one of my questions. And I don't know. Yeah, I think I should. Yeah. One of the big things from the Austrian side is the idea of truly free banking, right? The government comes in and they mess around with the banking system and manipulate the banking system. And if we had truly free money, right, the free market determined what real money was, that we'd have much better communication of prices, and the price signal would mean more and better allocation of resources, et cetera, et cetera. And
what's free money, by the way? What's free money? I know sort of what you mean.
Yeah, I think what's meant is like. I think what's meant is that.
You mean hard money? Hard money?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily hard money. They would argue that the private sector should be the one that comes up with what money is, I'm seeing some phrases, tossed out.
It's
Currency, plurality.
Plurality, yeah, because you
Yeah.
sort of have everyone has a bar tab sort of thing. I mean, that would be the MMT framing.
So what I don't get, and what I don't understand, and maybe Charles, if you can help me understand this, what's stopping that from being a reality right now? That's what I don't understand. Is I don't think there's any laws against me starting a bank, right? And someone just giving me some asset to hold in that bank. For the sake of it, we'll just say gold, but it doesn't have to be. It could be lumber, it could be eggs, right? Whatever. They give those to me. It's effectively a deposit, right? And then in return for that deposit, they're going to get, we'll call it a note, a Doug note issued that is redeemable, that you can redeem, for whatever they gave me. So let's just say 1 ounce of gold gets you one note, and it's a 1-for-1 exchange. And then you get that IOU from me, and you can go do whatever you want with that, right? I mean, if someone wants to exchange that IOU for some good or services, they can do that. So and maybe this is just where I'm not understanding what they mean by this kind of free banking, free money thing. But is there anything? I mean,
currency competition sounds good to me.
I don't want it. I don't want it. I mean, I understand. I understand why it's asinine. My question is there anything stopping? I mean, isn't that what Bitcoin is? Is there anything? I agree. Yeah, Derek. I agree. You can't. I'm not saying start a bank in another currency, right? I'm saying I'm willing to take deposits in gold, and I'm gonna, you're gonna give me gold, and as part of that exchange, I'm gonna give you a note called a Doug note, and you get that Doug note, right? And that Doug note is an IOU from me that I owe you 1 ounce of gold, which you deposited, and you get this one Doug note, and that's the exchange. And then from there, you can go do whatever the hell you want with that Doug note, and I promise to pay you back your 1 ounce of gold
if you can find someone else to accept it for
exactly
something else.
But my question is, what is stopping? Right? If that is free banking, right? Like, right, now I'm a bank that's issued a note for some deposit. What's stopping that from happening today? I don't.
Yeah, I think contract tort law could allow you to do that as long as there's a contract involved.
I think Charles gave me the answer that I think is correct, by the way. I don't mean to cut you off, but Charles just gave me the answer that I think is correct. So
you need a power. It's about power. Power will make one currency dominate any other.
Correct. Yeah.
Just think about it. You can't have competition like that because monopolists will form, and currency is, when you're in a monetary system of any kind, currency is like base. It's like your base structure. And so, people often forget that MMT is superior version of Marxism. We got base structure sorted out here, man.
Yeah.
So, it's like it's base structure because it goes down to people's debt obligations. It's very ancient, very primitive in the brain, even up to the point of in other animals as well. So I just don't see it working out. But that brings up this point of if you have competition like that, the way the Austrians think is highly, I think, idealized and fantasized. And like I think I was discussing way back with you last year, Douglas, about came up in some of our conversations, the idea about, was it Target versus Sears Roebuck or something? And like Sears Roebuck was this firm that was basically kind of like Austrian school business. Just their internal business structure was just going to be hyper competitive, So salesperson competing with salesperson, and that was going to be so awesome.
Oh,
because, everyone would be competing for sales and customers. Yeah. And you could speak to that because I only heard this from a podcast, whereas you actually experienced it, right? Did you, or something like that?
In terms of
Best Buy or something like that?
Okay, yeah. Best Buy. Sorry, I was looking up free banking, Austrian economics. Okay. I found it.
You.
No, you're good. Yeah. So I worked at Sears when I was a kid or younger, in college, and we had a commission-based sales. And this is right as Best Buy was going away from commission-based sales and going to non-commission-based sales because they found it as better. Is that the question?
Yeah, just the idea of like comparing that, what happens when you have competition within your own system. It, it can be good if you're doing sports and whatever, but it can be really bad if you've got a need for full employment and non-fraud, and you don't want to encourage piracy. You don't want to encourage false marketing and scams and Ponzi schemes and all the rest that comes with competition. So if you understand money the way MMTs do, you realize that you can make money, the base structure, but it goes away. It fades like a Alexander Grothendieck's Rising Sea. I might blog about this. Don't worry if you don't know what that means right now. But it's like you make them the money token's the least important thing in your society. It's not but whatever you're having to compete on, that becomes very important. So competition is the focus of your life. So if you don't need to compete to get currency, to pay your taxes, and to conduct commerce and all that, you don't have to hyper compete. I should say, maybe you have to compete in the market. You have to make a better muffin than the other guy. But if there's not a scarcity of that, then you have a much better system. I think it's more peaceful, and just you get less crime that way and less fraud. But anyway, that's just my personal point of view, and I know Austrians have a different take on what competition does for you.
There are a couple.
Competition certainly exercises you, right? Yeah, when you're in competition, you have to be exercised. So you're going to be sort of industrious in some way, probably criminally, I reckon. But
So Charles, this is good. A couple things I want to piece together. One, you were mentioning Sears. Was the conversation we were having about Sears being commission based and Best Buy being non-commission based, and how Best Buy won out?
I don't know if it was Best Buy. Best Buy wasn't the other one. It was some company that had a similar business to Sears Roebuck, and Sears Roebuck just degenerated into this nasty place.
It did.
And their competitor saw off and knew no bounds with much better cooperation among their workforce.
So this is absolutely how it played out. So I worked there, I want to say in 2002, 3, 4, maybe that range at Sears, and we were still in the commission thing, and Best Buy had moved off to non-commission, right? And this is when ultimately Sears would go busto, and a few years after that, at least have to go through Chapter 11, and then what was I going to say? Best Buy obviously became the giant, and I agree. I mean, I absolutely agree. People did some really shady stuff at Sears because it was all commission based. I know I did. I'll tell you this story. I mean, I'll tell it very sheepishly. I'm completely wrong in doing this, but you wanted the commission, right? Maybe I've told this story, but I sold TVs, right? And so and you would get a commission on everything. And if someone came up and it was, I was just in the TV department, and someone came and was like, "Hey, I'd like to buy a treadmill," right? I could sell them that treadmill and I'd get 5% or whatever on that treadmill, right? So one day these people come up and they want a TV and they want a ping pong table or something like that, or like a pool table. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, great." But I didn't really know how to ring up a pool table. You had to ring it up in like 3 or 4 different parts, but I really wanted to make sure I got the full commission for it, right? And so I ended up ringing up the entire thing, and I did the TV right. I mean, I knew how to ring up the TVs, but I did the pool table wrong. They only got like half the pool table. So a week later, these people come back and just chewing me out. And you're absolutely right. If it didn't matter how much I was going to make off of that individual sale, right? I just would have went to the pool table guy and was like, "Hey, let's make sure we get this all right on one transaction." So I have a good little anecdotal story that absolutely, I'm going to get canceled now. And if you're the family that I did that to 20 years ago, I apologize.
Yeah.
I want to go.
Charles, there's no such thing as a best currency.
Okay, so Charles, this is what I want to get at, right? This is what I want to try and understand. That currency competition is the single most important thing to have in competition. We're shooting ourselves in the foot by not having currency competition. But why don't we have currency competition? What is stopping us from having currency competition today? That is my question. What legal structure, what legal ramification is getting in the way from doing exactly what I just said? I'm going to start the Doug note. The Doug note is going to be fully gold back, Bitcoin back, whatever. You give me a Bitcoin, I give you a Doug note. Go out, spend it. It's not even a stable coin, right? I mean, you don't even, there's no dollars here. It is completely dollar free. What's stopping that from occurring today? What is stopping that? That's my question. And I'm curious what the Austrian side would say. Yeah. What is actually stopping that?
You got to answer Charles too, because it's not that currency is a base structure of any monetary system. It's a base structure. That you could say that's important, but it's not like the most important thing in real terms, right? It's full employment and maximizing productivity and output for a peaceful society. And so the currency is the way you do that. And it just works best and least and most frictionless if there's a currency monopoly. So you've got to get past this idea that just hyper competition and everyone competing to try and find the best winners because the winners are going to be the best. It just doesn't work in reality. Often the winners, look at your presidents in the United States, are just the most horrific type people that rise to the top, because in a competition, the sort of dominant type alphas and so on are going to get to the top. The ones who can cheat and steal the most, tend to win. If you don't have the other base structure, which is a decent sort of justice system and some sort of systems in place for social equity and so forth and equality. So, you get the best in certain circumstances, in sports and other areas where competition is good. But there are areas, believe it or not, it might blow your mind, where a monopolist is actually a good idea. Think of your family and think of an anarchic system in your family where, everyone's just doing whatever they like.
So
it's not going to last very long.
Here's my devil advocate. I don't think we have a currency monopoly. Even in the U.S., I think the U.S. is the current currency monopolist for the U.S. dollar, but I'm the monopolist for the Doug note.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're much of a devil, because that could be true. So let's see how that plays out.
Yeah. What I want to know from the Austrians, I know Charles, I think you're probably the only Austrian here, is but if there are any, hopefully some of you can see where I'm getting at. And why I think I'm allowed to do what I just expressed that I could do, right? That I can accept gold and give you a Doug note for that gold, and you can go to whatever AustrianAmazon.com and buy crap with it, right? Disney's the monopolist for the Disney dollar. Yeah, exactly. But even then, right? I don't want to accept any dollars. I want this to be a completely dollarless thing. What's stopping that from happening? And if there's nothing stopping that from happening, then that means we have the free banking system that the Austrians want, right? That doesn't it? There's nothing legally stopping that from happening. So yeah,
I don't think so. Yeah.
So then the question is, why isn't that happening? And I would say only MMT has the right answer for that. Only MMT can understand that. Okay, that's helpful, Derek. I'm going to dig into this more, because I feel like this is kind of one of the gotchas that I want to bring up to Bob. It's like, I don't think there's anything stopping you guys from having your utopia right now. Just no one's going to accept your damn currency because they can't pay taxes in it. I mean, that's what it all boils down with, is someone down the line, whether you pay taxes or not, someone who's, you're going to buy something with, they're going to want to pay taxes, or the person after them is going to want to pay tax. They have a big tax bill, and the only thing they can do to settle that is use the dollar. The dollar is the franchise. Yeah, Stevie franchise, dollar franchise. Yeah. All right. At least from what I'm getting from chat, yeah.
That's another thing you got to be aware about with some of the alternative schools of thought is when they're saying, well, okay, MMT might be right today. We might have an MMT system today, but I don't think it's good. They're coming up with the utopia. They have an idea of a utopia, which is something that cannot be achieved, but they're just thinking it can be achieved, and they just think that this is going to be so much better for society if we have all this competition and so forth. And I'm saying no. I'm saying no. You want to compete on things that you want to compete on, and for things that you don't want to compete on. Yeah, and you want to cooperate on, And there's a hell of a lot of things that you really want to cooperate on, and you don't want competition because it's just a pointless waste of human lives. So you got to sort that out first. Like, where do you really want competition? Not in the currency. You want it in the actual markets where you want people producing goods, and you want the really good goods like Betamax to beat out VHS or whatever. And there's good reasons why that doesn't always happen, because people are distort the markets and so forth with whatever. Anyway, I'm getting off. I'm rambling now. So yeah,
no worries.
Just a utopian idea is a little bit tricky to handle, because a utopian idealist just truly is a true believer, and it's really hard for them in a sense to argue, because they're not doing those experiments, as you say. So it's like they don't have these big anecdotes to talk about. And, whenever you do have a new currency, what happens? It always ends up being a currency monopolist driving it. And it's just the way it works better, because then no one has to worry about what unit of currency we're using today. Oh, using US dollar. Great. Okay. And everything is on top of that base structure. Anyway, some thoughts. I know you had a lot of other thoughts, and
yeah, I'm seeing some good chat come in. August, welcome, man. I don't know if I've seen you here before, or lady. Ken, welcome back. Thanks for dropping by, saying hi. E-Gold in the 90s. Yeah. Okay. I think I do remember that. Because I went to it. I think at some point it was called, when I was like a gold bug, I remember, and I think it was this thing called gold money. I'm looking it up right now. Maybe it's not. But I do remember, someone like take a custodian, would be a custodian for your gold, and you would give it to them, and they'd issue you some sort of note. So I mean, obviously, if okay, I'm gonna look that up, Charles. If you remember, let me know. E-Gold. Let me look that up. E-Gold. I found it in '96. Okay. I think there were other things that were like this. I will tell you my idea, and I don't know if this I don't know if this overlaps with other with some of the other attempts that have been done, but my idea has no dollars involved ever, right? Like that's really the important thing, is the minute you start getting dollars involved, you start getting a little too close to the sun for the government, right? And I absolutely understand that. So my idea, no dollars involved. Anyway, I'm going to drop it there. I don't know. I mean, I'll keep thinking about that, but my overarching point is that, at the end of the day, someone wants to pay taxes, needs to pay taxes, and that's kind of part of what makes a society. And so we do have free competition in currency. Anyone can start their own currency, and we've seen Bitcoin do it. And I think the best that has come from Bitcoin is some $4 million JPEG, monkey JPEG. So I mean, if that's the output of a free currency, then to each their own. I'll agree with the Austrians that the value is subjective, but if we all agree that monkey JPEGs were not worth it, then maybe there is an objective measure to be had there to determine good and bad. But all right, I'll drop that one, and we can kind of move on to the next topic of the day.
Okay.
I don't know, whatever that's going to be.
Next topic. I don't know. I thought pushing more on the what you might do with Bob Murphy.
Okay.
Because quite a bit came up with the chat with Warren, with Ryan and Adam. But
were there any? Yeah, we can definitely hit on some topics from that. It was a great discussion. I think it was the longest stream we've had, and a really good discussion.
There's one thing that we hadn't discussed though, which is asteroids must have hit Zimbabwe. But Zimbabwe is interesting. It's an ongoing story, because recently they had an uptick. Like the young farmers who were the problem initially, because they cut back on agricultural output because the farms were given to these young revolutionaries who didn't know how to farm. They've learned how to farm. Who would have guessed? Okay, nice. So the youth farmers there are increasing their harvest, and they're heading upwards again. But most Zimbabweans, right, in surveys, were happier under Mugabe. I found that pretty surprising. so I wanted to dig into it to figure out all what's happening there, just because it's an interesting MMT kind of story there, because we understand the source of the inflation and everything. But then I also see, okay, Zimbabwe appears to be pegging to the US dollar. So
that is
what? Someone hasn't been talking to them. So I don't know. It's like it's a crazy situation there, right? It's not good for the people there, but at least agricultural output is getting out. But they're not going to find it to be terribly bad being on a US dollar peg. It just limits their policy space, and so they're going to still be suffering more than they need to be.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll see how it goes.
By the way, Zero Shot coming into the chat. Welcome, my man. Thanks for dropping. Thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it. My thumbnail. We can talk about markets for a brief minute. Continuing to fire off here, guys. Insane. Charles. Rip the questions, man. We'll definitely. Yeah, by all means, if you guys have questions, I mean, fire away. We can certainly go on to questions. Anyway, markets just continue to absolutely rip higher, and I just the fun that I'm having, I can't tell you. Like, not only are we absolutely crushing it, right, in terms of our positions and the subscribers over at the Patreon, but seeing people try and figure out what the hell is going on, I mean, is also part of the part of the fun here. But holy cow, hold on a second. Our first ever, this is awesome. This is absolutely awesome. Our first ever super chat. And I don't know if I can pronounce your name. Ukulele too. Ukulele too. One, thanks for the super chat, my man. And we will definitely answer the question. Do you expect a pullback in the market this fall due to all the COVID assistance programs ending and the student loan payments starting back up? That's a really good question. In terms of where we're going to end up in the fall. Yeah, if the contraction hits hard enough, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we could. I guess one of the things that I can get into just a little bit is, God, hold on a second. I haven't even switched over my screen to the chart here in terms of kind of what I'm thinking. One of the things maybe I can bring up is a little bit of the work we've been doing in deep learning, and kind of what my deep MMT models are seeing right now. But my deep MMT models are seeing that we might be on the precipice of a bit of a pullback here. So that is I don't know why they see what they see, but yeah, if spending contracts enough, say like it did at the beginning of 2022, we could certainly get a pullback. I don't think we'll see anything on the order of what we saw in 2022 at this point. I mean, all things being equal. The student loan thing does worry me a little bit. You guys can see my long-term Elliott wave count. The student loan thing does worry me a little bit. We've seen this massive contraction in bank credit, and I guess what I admittedly don't know is, and I mean, I can kind of think this out loud, right? So you have a contraction in bank credit that takes place. If during the downswing, is it, maybe a better way to put this, what would be worse from from kind of the dynamics that are at play that are making, ultimately determining price of the markets? Would it be worse for fiscal spending to completely cut out while bank credit is accelerating? Or would it be worse for, kind of maybe getting close to a peak, or would it be worse for fiscal spending to cut out while bank credit is decelerating? I think the argument you could make for it would be worse that it's decelerating is that fiscal spending cuts out while it's decelerating is that it's decelerating, right? I mean, we're just going to get a continued contraction, and the selling could happen immediately, and then you could get the fire selling that takes place, and kind of this runaway effect. So, but on the flip side, if the private debt cycle is decelerating, does that mean it's closer to its bottom? And does it have the potential to make up, if you will, for the fiscal suddenly dropping, right?
Right.
So that's like one part of it, and then flip what I just said in reverse for the top, right? Does the momentum carry us going further? I mean, I don't know. You can give your shot.
That's pity your deep MMT doesn't talk.
It needs to freaking talk. I need to understand why it's doing what it's doing. So if we do get sufficient drop off from the fiscal flows, that would be concerning. And I would call the credit situation brittle. But the leading, here's the other thing too, though, that certainly the leading component, and this is again one of the things I need to really hit home on with Bob, is what leads the credit cycle, right? I'm in full agreement with the Austrians that it's the banks. That the banking cycle causes the boom bust, right? Like we can agree there, it's the banking cycle that causes the boom bust, right? It's just I'm going to see it in the framework of an endogenous cycle, right? And they're going to see it in the framework of a loanable funds cycle, right? And but if I can kind of correct that, we can at least come to this agreement. Yeah, it's the boom bust is happening, is happening from the banking side. But what leads that banking cycle? What leads that is spending, right? It leads that is income, right? It's the people that need the loans, that need to get the loans. Yeah. Those loans are going to come to them because their income is increased, right? And so that's what's going to lead the banking cycle. And on top of that, too, to a certain extent, kind of a less important extent, banks can increase their balance sheet at a faster rate if they don't have to worry about any capital regulations as well. So I mean, if they're getting free money on the money they have, high interest rates just paying them, right? The risk the risk of insolvency reduces, right? So they can take a little bit more risk as well. So my guess is going back to this original point, if credit is contracting, and then all of a sudden, let's just say DeSantis becomes president, or RFK Jr. becomes president, and Charles, it's a good question. I can hit that in just a second. And all of a sudden, fiscal drops. I would imagine there's nothing to get the engine of the credit cycle going, right? It seems to me that the credit cycle has to begin with government spending. So my operating assumption, I could be wrong. I mean, this is something I could be wrong on. It's just hard to prove. Is that if you're already getting a decelerating credit cycle, which we're certainly coming off the end of a decelerating credit cycle, we're starting to see some areas accelerate. I think the most important areas accelerate, at least for kind of equities. But that if fiscal goes now, I don't see how you get the boom to ever begin, right? So that is kind of where I'm at with that. So heading into the fall, if fiscal spending takes a big enough haircut, we'll have some corporate taxes in September, and if some of the spending falls off, and we can see that fully, I should say accumulate, but in the accumulation of those, it kind of becomes the debt. If that falls off, then we could have some issues, but it's going to be a wait and see, and certainly, I mean, almost one thing. I'm although I'm having a ton of fun getting all these bull calls correct. I kind of, for the sake of the engagement, I need this market to start to look bearish, so I can be coming up with some new bangers on Twitter, like it's getting bearish, so
exactly. When things change, you you pick the change, it's better than just picking what the trend is. So the other thing about the student debt was, you've got a lot of boomers in that who are benefiting from the interest rates, and then they can help their kids pay off the debt. So it's there is some dampening effects there, people drawing down on their savings. But if the trickle down is working, and that's what I was trying to chat with you guys about the other day. Anyway, sounds good, man. Those were a lot of words.
Those were a lot of words. Here's the thing. I don't know why, but all of a sudden we're blowing up a little bit in viewership. So with that being the case right now, I don't know who kind of I don't know, retweeted me or whatever, and why we're getting a little pop in viewership here. But I'm sure you're tuning in because you want to understand how to apply MMT to investing or something like that. I don't exactly know. So if you're here, Timmy, I see you. TR, I see you too, man. Thanks for dropping in and saying hi. If any of you guys that are popping in, again, I don't know how we got so many flood of viewers here, but it's something you guys want us to talk about, can kind of cue me in as to why we're seeing a bit of a flood here, and what you want me to cover. I can definitely do that. But I know at least the headline for today's stream was that we will talk kind of investing and that sort of thing. So, yeah. Let me know. Let me know what you guys want to cover. If you guys want me to just go into kind of the full MMT. Now we're back down to 17. So maybe there's just a one-time shot. Anyway.
Yeah, like what are these guys on about? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was right. I'll tune in, tune out. No, I mean the one of the backgrounds for this, which goes with Ukulele's chat message, was that you can find Michael Green talking to something called Wealthion or wherever it's on YouTube, and he's an MMT aware guy, right? And he was being pessimistic and saying, you're delusional if you think there's not going to be a recession, and of course MMT crowd are like, well, Moseley's law, right? There's no financial crisis that cannot be turned around with sufficient enough fiscal injection. But there's some interesting sort of dynamics at the mesoeconomic level, in the markets, and whether you can get some sort of mini collapses and contagions of, and whether the fiscal flows from government can prevent a kind of a dynamic where there's some fear, uncertainty, doubt, and just isolated regional effects that I have a recessionary, even though in the macro you'd say it shouldn't be, because the fiscal flows are solid. But that can all, I think, rapidly unwind if the government doesn't support with fiscal injections. At the same time, the Fed lowers the rates, stops the interest income injections. And so that's how the macro influences the meso level, and whether there's any contagion effects that sort of spread. It's almost like epidemics, once you have sales stop in some area, layoffs occur, and then the sales go down further and so on. And it's whether that can, in isolated regions, sort of snowball into something wider before the automatic stabilizers kick in the macro to make corrections and so forth. So I don't know. It's really hard stuff to call, but Michael Green was saying you're delusional if you think there's not going to be a recession. But we're just thinking through, actually, how does it happen? And
exactly. Yeah. Ty Keynes, super chat, $5, man. Thank you. $5 Canadian dollars. You'd think as the MMT macro trader, I would know exactly what the exchange rate is. $5 Canadian dollars to US dollars. I am not typing right now, Googling what is the exchange rate, but I just did. 380. Ty, thanks, man. You are super, Doug. I even sometimes like the other dude that you do the stream with some days.
I can't piss Ty Keynes off too much. I rely on him for my illicit supply of high quality Canadian maple syrup. Don't want that golden.
Yeah. He works next to the Canadian maple syrup factory, and he sees like that's the jar that's heading out to that's the shipment that's heading out to New Zealand. I'm gonna piss in that one.
No way am I ever gonna have corn syrup on my pancakes.
Seriously, Ty, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Ty, dropping some new models. I got to take a look at those. You know what I was thinking, Ty? I don't know if you'd ever be up for something like this, but I was thinking maybe it would be instructful to maybe have you on the stream one day or something like that, and like walk me through how to fully understand some of the stuff, some of the really bleeding edge stuff you're putting together. I don't know, teach me some Minsky, and we can do a sweet thumbnail. Can an idiot figure out Minsky? Well, if he can, then so can the monetarist, something like that. I think that'd be
Monetary
cool.
modeling for babies.
Yeah, yeah. I really appreciate the work you're doing too, and yeah, I'm sure everyone here knows Ty and Ty's channel and everything like that. So, but if some reason you ran across this and you don't, make sure you check out Ty Keen's, because it's the minds like Ty, Steve Keen, Warren Mosler. I mean, anything that I've come up with is all derivative work. There's few things that I can truly call original to myself, and a lot of just. Lot of standing on the shoulders of giants sort of thing, and I would definitely put the work that Ty is doing as giant like work. So thanks, Ty.
Yeah. Except when he shills for UBI. But one thing that I had a note on when I was talking with Adam and Ryan and you on Bob Murphy was, I reckon, right, that it might help prove my case that the superior MMT pedagogy is the money story and sequence first.
Yeah.
I'm Mosler school. Douglas is Stephanie Kelton school.
Whoa!
So I reckon.
Hold on. Oh no! No. Oh man, that's a low blow.
Yeah, low blows. Sorry about that. It's competition here. Competition in the pedagogy space. So I reckon that it's going to happen with Bob Murphy, right? Because I was reading him, and then I was reading Cullen Roach and stuff like that. So a few critics of MMT that sectoral balances first up sort of fails because they always retreat to endogeneity, whereas the money story and sequence succeeds because the problem. Okay, here's the problem. I'll attack myself for a bit. The problem with the money story and the sequence is that the problem is like Minsky. The problem is getting other people to accept it.
Yeah, other people to care. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Sectoral balance, you can just show them, but then they retreat to endogeneity. So there's, both pedagogies have.
When you say, hold on, when you say they retreat to endogeneity, do you mean that they retreat to the argument that it's really the banking sector that's creating the funds for the government to borrow?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So
Yeah. And then it's just a belt measuring contest after that. Yeah. So you're never going to get anywhere.
The superior pedagogy is that you have to just. Yeah. I was only joking with Douglas there, chat. Douglas's pedagogy is actually the best. It's like you take people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to listen to people first. You got to listen, be a listener, and not just like, well, MMT says this. You got to learn MMT. No, you got to learn. If you're one-on-one trying to talk to people who are in policy spaces or activist spaces.
Yep.
Listen to them, learn where they are first, and then you can gradually get them along better, superior understanding of the monetary system. Yeah. So,
yeah. TR, I agree. There are a lot of frequent guests predicting recession soon. Everyone's predicting recession soon. It's all the fad. I hope they weren't.
I don't know if you've seen any. You got any questions in the chat there? Because I got another one that
I hope all these, like, not only are stocks up, but I hope all these recessionistas were actually holding cash this time, make it even better.
Okay, Eugenio, do you remember what Mike Green's reasons for recession were? He was like, distressed selling has not occurred yet, but will occur.
Yeah.
And there's what he calls a maturity wall. So when the debt's mature, those were his two key things, I think. Anyway,
that second one sounds very scary.
Maturity wall.
I mean, this is how immature I am. I'm like, maturity wall, I haven't hit that yet, man. I'm still 15-year-old deep inside. Oh, he's talking about debt maturity. Oh, okay. A couple things. I think let me actually phrase it. I don't know Mike Green's what he actually does, but there are a lot of people that are on what are called sell sides. I don't know if he is a sell side guy, but there are a lot of people whose main business model is to sell you protection from like outsized downward moves, right? And again, I don't know. I don't know if that's what Mike Green is. What about that yield curve? Yeah, I don't know if that's what he is, but there are so many people that are like, oh, the big one, the big one's coming, right? And there, to a certain extent, there always is a big one coming, right? I mean, I don't disagree that it's always only a matter of time before you get a 10, 15% sell off in very short order, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he works for an ETF that has protection for the downside, right? Yeah, 100%. I like, which would make complete sense, right? Like, yeah, depending on where you're at in your investment life cycle, right? Taking a 15% haircut would really suck, right? Like for a lot of people, having 5% gain with, a 5% gain going forward with the biggest risk of a drawdown being, a drawdown of 5%, but you're capped at a 5%, at a 5% increase, like makes complete sense for a lot of people, right? And so you can sell products like that, right? Where you can cap your downside and cap your risk and that sort of thing. So you're always going to have a bent to finding, what could go wrong in this market. And I mean, at any given time, you can find something, right? A couple months ago, it was SVB. A couple weeks ago, it was the TGA thing, right? Before that, it was the rate hikes, right? But to me, it all boils down to the fiscal side, right? Take away the fiscal side, and every bear porn thing that gets posted out there, I'm in full agreement on, right? Like any one of those things could completely wreck this market, have in the past, right? You keep the fiscal strong, none of that stuff matters. I mean, at the end of the day, the institutional structures that get money into stocks are so strong, and to a certain extent so perverse, but still so strong, that's going to overcome any of these risks. Now, could one of them, there was back in, I think, February of 21, we had a sell-off. I might be wrong in the month here. We had a sell-off, and the Fed was completely flat-footed, right? It was a situation where banks were finding themselves just with too many reserves on the balance sheet. I think this really kicked off the reverse repo situation, right? So there's a short-term sell-off. And situations like that can happen, right? Where the Fed doesn't realize kind of the unintended consequence of some dynamic playing out. But then they get it enough to where the banks are still able to issue loans, right? So I think there's a hyperfixation on the banking side. I don't think they fully understand the debt deflation dynamics that are happening from that side. And so, yeah, I mean, Mike Green is credit. He's MMT adjacent. He gets some of the stuff that MMT is saying, but the dude has called a recession for the last 9 months, and everything along the way is a potential risk. And at some point, you just got to ask yourself, okay, well, if none of these things caused the market to crash, what was the overriding factor, right? You have to me, you have to deduce that at some point. And, I would argue, the overriding factor is right in your face. It's the additional, it's the additional fiscal flow. So that's my thought.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah, no, decent thought. Any other questions? I've got one question for you. I don't know. I know you told me that you tend to sort of just gloss over a lot of other channels that talk markets and that because they're just nonsense. But I was, because we're going to engage with Bob, or you are, and want to try and support you. Sometimes dig into a few. That's why I listened to Mike Green on that interview.
Yeah.
And there's a few others pop up, and sometimes I click on them. Totally infects my YouTube recommendation feed. It's terrible, but still, it's like I'm prepared to take a few bullets here. So I'm like, a lot of them are talking about like liquidity. Liquidity. And then when I listen to them, it's like QT, QE, QT, or QE.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm thinking, dudes, it's like, and you affect the bank reserves that way. Yeah, well, it's going to make the banks able to issue more credit, blah blah blah. So they've got the whole story about that wrong. I think. They never express it because I think it's just common knowledge among those types, among the crowd of, normie investors. They all know what they mean by it. But when from an MMT head like me, I'm thinking, what the heck are they on about there? What? and they get into these convoluted discussions about central banks and so forth and the
Yeah.
liquidity. And it all just seems so wrong to me because what creates bank loans is creditworthy customers, and if you have a strong fiscal injection side from government, that's going to create more creditworthy customers.
The real liquidity crisis happens when the fiscal goes away and the endogenous cycle is no longer able to support growth, and that's when you get a liquidity crisis, right? I mean, you will see assets have to be fire sold, and they will, you'll get the domino effect, the knock-on effect, and that's when
then as a trickle down gets blocked.
Yeah. I mean, that's when the real liquidity crisis will begin. Yeah, a lot of stuff. I mean, some of that stuff is just mind-numbing to try and follow. Lynn Alden is one of them. I mean, she was on there. She I mean, again, it's so crazy how close some of these. I mean, essentially, to me, they kind of use the MMT argument. Some of these people will make the MMT argument, but then they will. But then they also kind of need to make the argument that's going to sell. Hold on 1 second. Plug that back in. Okay. But then I have a guest real quick. Sorry guys. But then they have to make the argument that kind of sells to the sells the newsletter and everything, right? Makes the bear porn stuff, drives the engagement.
Right.
My wife is in here grabbing something out of my office, and I think bear porn just made her raise her eyebrows.
Ben sells products, right?
Yeah. So and it's the liquidity stuff. So they get so close, but it's almost like grifting that more than anything.
Grifting, or they just. Yeah, they're totally out of paradigm.
Yeah, and then they get into the liquidity stuff. But so I mean, like that Lynn Alden, she was on to the TGA thing. Oh, it's liquidity. And actually, what was really interesting too. So one of the things that Ryan had brought up to me, my wife, she's like, I see a lot of LOLs in chat. Yeah, I was like, I knew you were weird, Doug, but come on, man. Well, this is absolutely fascinating, right? The TGA thing, because one of the things that Ryan brought up to me, he wanted me to check, is to look into if big surges in, ironically, the issuance of public debt, if there was any correlation between that and some kind of market surges, particularly in kind of junk stocks. And lo and behold, there was, right? So they were all going on about the refill of the TGA and the issuance of all these treasuries being some sort of liquidity drain. And as it turns out, it's the exact opposite. It's exactly what Ryan and Adam were thinking ahead of time. They didn't have kind of the raw data and the stats to back it up. But holy cow! I mean, we ran it, and it's like, oh my gosh! Every time you get a big surge, it's hard to fully time when the surges are going to happen. But every time you get a big surge in the issuance of public debt, a real acceleration of it, you see a healthy pop in markets. So. They've just got it all backwards. I mean, they've got it all backwards.
All backwards again. Backwards, you cunt. Yeah.
But I wish to a certain extent, instead of having 3,000 subscribers here on YouTube and 1,600 followers on Twitter, I'd probably have 100,000 on YouTube and 50,000 on Twitter if I just played that same game. I mean, it kind of sucks, but just steadily being right really doesn't get the traction that making bold calls that are wrong over and over and over again truly make. But I guess
it's a surprising thing. Good stuff. It's surprising. I mean, but in a way, it's not surprising. I mean, okay. So I'll tell you another story. You can give me your comments. So one of these other channels that would never pop up my recommendations otherwise pops up. And maybe it was even an ad, because I think your advertisements maybe change depending on what you're clicking on, I guess.
Okay.
And so there's this guy comes up, right? Or two. One Bob Proctor, who's trying to sell prosperity.
Yeah,
right? Everyone can be a millionaire, right? And man, it's like you might think Bob, naive Bob Murphy, who's a character I just invented in my head, would say, MMT money grows on trees. So he'd be like 2010 era critic of MMT. Money grows on trees. Everyone can have ponies. Everyone can be a millionaire. slap them hard because they're going to wake up to reality about credits and debits. But so that's Bob Proctor for you. Everyone can somehow find enough credits out there, right? Just work hard, change your mindset. Oh yeah, that's right. It was paradigm shifts. Paradigm shifts got me to this guy Bob Proctor, right? Because he was talking about paradigm shifts, and I thought he was going to talk about the science, but no. Click on it for a few minutes in, and it's all about financial guru stuff. And so that was hilarious.
Was he an older guy, maybe in the 60s, 70s?
Yeah, an older guy.
Was it Bob?
Changed his whole mindset.
Was it
paradigm shift in it?
Was it Bob Prechter? Precther?
I don't think it was Elliot's guy. No, it wasn't Proctor.
Proctor, okay.
Proctt. Okay. So not the Elliot's way guy.
Okay.
Just a financial guru guy. Anyway,
I gotta bring this up real quick too, because you said we could all have ponies, right?
Right.
And so I just looked it up. How many how many horses are there in the world? We are resource constrained.
Yeah. What?
Well, he said, yeah, everyone can have a pony, and there's 60 million horses in the world. So we are at a resource constraint for everyone being able to have a pony.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Not even every family, probably.
Yeah, no.
Bad days. But we can all have a My Little Pony. So,
but we could all be millionaires. That is actually a constraint we don't have. We could all be millionaires, but
without stomping on anyone else.
Yeah.
Who would know?
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. Anyway, the other guy I'll tell you about. This is maybe a little bit more interesting, and maybe someone in the chat could help me with this. Although I don't know if our chat is highly geopolitical. If you fancy yourself as a geopolitical armchair person, then this is for you. So click on this other link or this ad that I get, and there's this guy. Okay, his name is Jim Ricketts. I think that's with a K, and he gives this interesting spiel, and so I'm kind of hooked. So I think this is the only advertisement on YouTube that I think.
Bald with kind of long hair in the back, though?
Yeah, bald hair. The only one that I've ever played through to the finish, right? Because I love watching this conspiracy stuff sometimes, if I got a bit of time free, because I got a cold. I'm not doing any work because I'm feeling awful. So, give him a listen. So he's got this doomsday deal. He reckons he was in on the Nixon administration. He was one of the guys set it up. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to actually really deep Google search what the doomsday deal was, but it's got something to do with US dollar hegemony.
Oh, yeah. It's all coming to an end, baby.
Yeah, some of that sort of,
YouTube thumbnail.
I don't know what it is yet, but it's interesting. And so I want to look it up later. So I don't know if you heard of it, but it's quite fascinating because what he does is he sells, $1,000, $2,000 whatever products to insure people against the coming currency meltdowns, meltdowns of all the currency.
What a generous guy. Yeah. He's really just helping the people. He's a goofball. He's a complete nut job.
Real in that case. Yeah.
Is he in China right now? August. Yeah. Very well anyway. Could be. He's him, Peter Schiff, the whole crew. What makes me he is JW. Welcome. TR JW. Welcome. I'm forgetting to kind of call out some of the names here, guys. Danger Zone also in the chat. Welcome. But Jim Rickards is he's a extreme permeable guy. I made this. This is my favorite thing right now. All these.
I just want to know what this doomsday deal is, Douglas.
About the dollar.
This doomsday deal. Some political wrangling was done with the Nixon administration, and so supposedly, every U.S. president since has signed on to this doomsday deal.
I don't know.
Kind of don't know what it is. I didn't really get to the bottom of it.
JW Steve Keen recommended me to what's Eric Townsend, the guy who hosts that. Yeah. He wanted nothing to do with me at the Macro Voices podcast. Yeah, they will not have me on there. So I listen. I mean, I've listened to it when I was really trying to build up my kind of complete macro understanding. I would listen to some of those guys. Oh my God, I can only imagine. I can only imagine how little money these guys actually make on markets. I just, if they are making anything, anyone who's trading that is sort of like ideas. I mean, TR, I don't know why they objected to me. I mean, you know, yeah, I don't. Maybe I wasn't big enough. Maybe I'm not big enough for their platform. But yeah, it is. Do you have a Charles Grip? Do you have a podcast? I'll come chat with you, man. I don't care if it's large or small, but anyway, yeah, I have. I just it's mind-boggling the amount of fear. The only thing that guy was right about. I finally stopped completely listening to what he had to say, but I do remember him claiming that COVID would be like a real thing, like that it would cause some issues. Quite ironically, though, the whole COVID sell-off lasted all of a month before, 3 months later, we were back above that point. But yeah, the doomsday stuff is actually, to me, I mean, I think the worst thing you can do for wealth, for generating wealth long term is listen to that doomsday stuff. The best thing you can do, I mean, even if you had to live through 2000 and 2008, right? You had to live through those time periods, and you started investing in say 1990 or something like that. I mean, you are so better off having never listened to a doomsdayer than having to like listen to every single one of their. Oh, this is the big one. This is the big one. Oh, the Fed keeps blowing the bubble. The Fed keeps blowing the bubble.
Tail risk strategy for dummies.
Yeah. So
I gotta have a play on Nassim Taleb for that one. Or how would you twist that into like Nassim Stupid or something like that? Yeah.
How would I say Nassim Stupid? I don't know.
Like, how would I? Yeah. How could I? I was just thinking of. I couldn't crack a joke there. I wanted to crack a joke about Nassim Taleb and play on the words on his name to like sound like Nassim Stupid or something like that.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
That would be the whole, because he does tail risks, for smart cookies. But you're into these doomsayers and all this buy gold and all that. You're tail risk for dummy.
Yeah.
Anyway, moments passed.
Go for it, Bijou. I got a special guest over here, real quick. I got to.
Oh, you have? Who's that?
She's not.
Bring him on the show.
But kiddo.
Hey, good night.
No,
anyway, I'm for moving to another topic if you like.
Yeah.
I did have some Murphy predictors.
Do you want to go over the Murphy predictors?
Maybe. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
You can fire them off. Yeah. You can fire them off. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I could just read through them. You could show them to the chat if you want.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
They're just my hand notes that I just pull out roughly when I'm scribbling some mathematics, and I might write on some notes for the live stream. So did I share it?
Yeah, it's shared. Give me 1 second. It's my side. It's all right. By the way, I mean we've only chatted. I mean it's not 100%. We've tentatively agreed on a date, but we'll see. We'll see from there.
Okay, so the chat and you can fire at me if you think I'm wrong on any of this. So the Murphy predictors: 1, Bob will endlessly straw man you if you let him. Number 2, I mean maybe not maliciously.
Okay.
I'd put a caveat on that. Maybe just because I think paradigm perspective, he's coming from a different point of view, so he doesn't understand MMT. This is the thing. He says he wants to understand, but he still hasn't understood. So I mean, until that, he'll probably either deliberately or unconsciously straw man MMT.
Yep.
Number 2, at best, he might accept MMT, might accept it. Like, okay, like Mosley's correct, yes, but I just don't like it.
Yeah,
I want gold.
Yeah.
I want gold. I want the people who have the gold to be powerful. And 3, could be a lot of time spent. That's me straw manning Bob, of course, because the reason he thinks gold is powerful is totally different to my perspective.
Yeah.
3, could be a lot of time spent cross talking. I mean, this is the same thing. Out of paradigm, blah. 2 paradigms trying to talk and they just don't understand each other. Or I think Douglas has a good chance. I think you would understand the Austrian school stuff perhaps pretty well, better than he does. So it might be asymmetric. Anyway, it's a classic different point of views situation.
Yeah.
Different assumptions and axioms, and it just makes debate or even just reasoned intellectual discussion really damn hard if you don't all agree on the axioms and assumptions. So I'm going to predict Bob makes 0 advance. That's a bullish prediction. Bearish prediction. Sorry. I'm going full bear here.
Yeah.
He desires to learn MMT, and this is what Michael Cruz figured out. He agrees with me on this. He desires to learn MMT only to kill MMT because he thinks, and this is he's public with this. He says MMT is dangerous.
Yeah.
So he's like Larry Summers of the Austrian school there. He wants to kill MMT because he honestly believes, and this is the thing. I think he's honest. That's a good thing.
I do. I agree. I actually do think he's honest. Yeah.
Not grifting. So he honestly believes MMT is horrific for society. Hyperinflation, loss of real wealth, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Of course. What's real wealth? Real wealth comes from labor. So you have to have full employment. So if he can guarantee me full employment, then I'll become an Austrian.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you that. I'll say that right now. I mean, but he has to not guarantee it. It's like he has to show it. Like MMT can kind of show it with Hefe's program, rural job guarantee in Argentina, and whoever freaking starts a job guarantee proper, they will have finally shown it to be not just theory. Okay, and then at best he might accept MMT, but will stick to claiming the peg to gold is superior. Just what I said. For economic health. So you got to pin him down on what he really means by that. Does it mean people have a lot of goods and savings, or does it mean because that's a stock, not a flow? So what's economic health to me is full employment, because you have to keep producing output for people's needs because it's a dynamical system. So he might say fair. So would he say fair distribution of sustainable output is what he defines as economic health, or is he using some other measure? Number 3, if Douglas can pin Bob down on a few definitions, a few minutes later, I reckon Bob is going to ignore what you just agreed. And I'll predict he'll do that several times.
Yeah.
Number 4, Bob's going to repeat his sociopathic bullet point if you let him. If it comes around to this, this might not be in the topics that you discuss, because you're discussing interest rates mainly.
Yeah.
But I reckon he might repeat his sociopathic bullet point that the $7 an hour worker is, quote, earning only what they deserve in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So, no need for government to come in and help these workers because they're just getting paid exactly what they deserve. So go back and listen to Bob's debate with Randy Ray. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where he says that in a summary, and it's like, if I was a nasty sort of person or a very aggressive person, it would make my blood boil. Instead, I'm just thinking, I really pity Bob Murphy. I think that's just I think he's got something wrong in his brain there, and I don't think he really means to be a bad person, but that what he said there was very bad. Very, very bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't come across anything worse than that. But anyway, that's my opinion. Okay, so I think he's going to be oblivious of the labor market being grossly unfair game. It's a game, and labor has no power in this game. Okay, the game meaning it's pretty much life and death. Full Shakespeare. When Mosley says it's game theory, you might take him to be a bit flippant, but I'm pretty sure Warren understands. This is life and death game. It's freaking serious. And so, when capital suppresses labor and wages, and they just say, "Oh, it's just the market, nothing to do with our power that we have over workers, because workers need to come to work to eat." It's just completely getting things wrong. If you had a perfect market with fair competition and everyone had the same purchasing power, then the markets would work the way you want them to work. But that's not what we have. We have a terribly unbalanced, unfair game in the labor market. And 4B is okay. So to be kind to Bob, I'd say you just don't want him to go there.
To go where?
If he puts that out again in public, I'm going to feel so sad for him.
Yeah. Okay,
anyway,
but
that's my
Right. I mean, not to steelman, the market wage thing, right? I think what they would say is, I think how they try and say it is, if we had a real free market without the government distorting the price signal, right? You'd have a more accurate representation of what someone's true value is to the market, right?
That's one of their arguments, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not saying that like that person is only worth $7.50 an hour, right? But what they're saying is that person's value to the market system is worth $7.50 an hour, which I think. I mean, I know it sounds the same coming out, right? Yeah. But they're not trying to like. I think what they're trying to get at.
They're trying to get at is that person needs to work 2 or 3 jobs. Because like they're
no, I think what they're trying to say, I mean, yeah, that would be one of the outcomes of it, but I think what they're trying to say is that person has no ability to offer society anything more than what society can pay it. Not to say that what that person offers society isn't, a benefit to somebody, but in terms of kind of the monetary system,
doesn't sound any better to me.
Yeah,
those $7 an hour workers are working damn hard.
I understand that. Like, I understand, and yeah. I don't think they're not trying to say that they're not working. That they're not working hard, right? Yeah, I just think what they're trying to say is the free market has decided that their skill set just isn't that valuable, right? And that the only reason that those $7.50 an hour workers are getting exploited is they see it. And not not just saying, oh, this is just the just compensation for the skill set that I have, is because the government comes in and messes things up. Right?
Oh, yeah, maybe interesting. But then he's like talking both sides of his mouth. I mean, okay, so that doesn't compute to me. That because that's logical fallacy.
I'm not saying I'm not saying it should compute to you. I'm just trying to be fair to his side. That his argument would be, well, if I just got the government out of the way, right? It's really the government that's suppressing that maybe that $7.50. That guy is always making $15 an hour in a free market, no. Right? It's really the government that's coming in.
That's not what he said, though. That's not what he said to Randall Wright.
But I think
he said in the current system, that's what they're worth. Current system.
I don't think he's okay. I would interpret
because if it was a totally free market and these people were like bargaining for their labor power that someone needed, then they'd probably get much higher wage, and CEOs would get a much lower wage. But we don't have that system because of power structures. I mean, we don't have a free market in that sense.
And I think that I would imagine that would be his argument, though, is that if we go to a free argument, a free market, there would be a better distribution. Right. There would be a better distribution. That's generous. Okay. My counter argument to that is, yeah, you're right. And you know what? To a certain extent, I can be for that, right? I can be an MMTer and for that, right? Wait. Yeah. Wait. I can be for a full free market of wages, right? Because
wait.
No, go for it. Go ahead. Go. Give me your quick counter, and then I'll finish my.
Quickly, you have to distinguish between free and fair, because if someone
free, whatever, yeah, okay. Power, listen, what I'm trying to say is there's no minimum wage. Someone who runs a company can offer you to work at whatever they want, right? And they can fire you whenever they want. Right. They can say, no, you're done. There's no unions or anything. Right. So that's what I'm defining as free. Right. And I can come along as an MMTer and say, yeah, you know what? We can work with that. Right. Not ideal, but whatever. We can work with that. As long as, as long as there's like kind of like OSHA rules in place. Right. They're not putting you in a freezer without, there's a regulation on that, without a code or something like that. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? But that we can agree with that. But what I'm going to say is, yeah, that's fine. But there's also nothing stopping the government from coming in, though, and still just offering something like a UBI. Right. So we're not, you can have both worlds, right? Because all they're talking about is just kind of the nominal wage that's being made, right?
Mhm.
And what I'm saying is, heck, you don't even have to do wealth at that point, right? You don't have to come in and do a UBI. You could just simply pass laws that say, yeah, you just get to show up to the doctor and you can go to the doctor, right? You can come in and just create structures. I guess, granted, they would say, nope, that's now distorting the free market. Then, fine.
Right.
You can just come in, allow the market to make whatever decisions they want to make for the employment, for the obligation of employment. But since the government's the currency monopolist, they can just come in and issue this currency. So to me, it's always a framing of not necessarily, and this is kind of going back to the person makes $7.50 an hour, that's what he deserves. It has nothing to do with kind of the money that they make, but it has everything to do with the opportunity that is presented for them to get access to the real resources of the nation, right? And I just think there's both a legal way to get access to those resources, and there's a monetary way to get access to those resources. So I think to a certain extent I can come along and say something to the effect of, yeah, we could have it your way, and I mean, obviously it would be torturous, and it's not a world anyone would want to live in. But MMT will still give you a framework for analysis on how to make that work. But
maybe that sounds a bit.
That would be my agreeing with the devil's argument position.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you got to also, I think as a advocate for MMT, you also have to recognize our heritage, which is post-Keynesian and Marxist and institutionalist as well, because you can't have a free market, right? Whoever just by chance, and this could be almost random. This is what the little econophysics guys kind of do. It's kind of funny what they do. It's just such a toy model, but it's it is reality. It is capturing part of reality. Is that if you have a system where it's sort of just free and nice, it's like in game theory, it's always susceptible to an invader. I don't mean like a military invader, just someone grabbing more power than the other guy.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Power is increasing returns to power. Wealth is increasing returns to wealth. It sets up a runaway exponential dynamic.
Yes.
And so, eventually, if you don't have a government, you just get a warlord or a king or an emperor who just grabbed all the gold, charismatic figure that had a good army behind them, and they just become king.
Exactly.
And so it just doesn't, you just don't have a free market that way without a government. There's no way. And civilization is an evolutionary system that is, happily for us living in our time and era, converged, at least for now. Maybe in the future government will get a hell of a lot better. I certainly hope it does. I mean, it has to get better, has to be more democratic. So, currency, your wage is also part of your, a big part of your way you can be inclusive in society and be a voice in your democracy. And the more the wage disparity or income disparity or even just savings disparity, the worse your democracy. And that's not a free, that's an unfreedom. So again, there's a market for votes for your government. And that's a hugely important market, and it gets distorted by wealth. So, that's the other thing I'd keep in mind. But perhaps perhaps your conversation with Bob is not going to go in that direction. But if it does, it's a good chance to sort of be the I'm not just the MMT is accounting. Kind of
hopefully we can get that set up and we can hit record and have a good conversation. So far, I mean, what I have going for me too, especially for the Austrian types that are be mainly listening to this, the one thing I have going for me is I'm like the mega enigma, right? I went to a very conservative our teachers talked about, they would talk about Mises and Hayek. I mean, they never got into like the real hardcore, Rothbard and the real hardcore Austrian types, but it was definitely part of the discussion. I mean, it's still very much, Milton Friedman, in terms of the in terms of curriculum. But the one so I mean there, but like I mean the one thing that I'm going to have in common with a lot of those Austrian guys is I've got 4 kids. We homeschool. I live in a small neighborhood in the middle of a country, countryside, effectively a homestead style setup here. That is certainly not your normal progressive lefty guy. So I'm fully prepared to lean very much into the. I'm just like you guys, and hopefully can win a few over with.
It's Eugenio looking at my. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I scrolled the screen down.
Hey, you're still sharing, man. You're still sharing.
Have we finished with Bob?
Yeah, for now. Yeah. I mean, we'll be completely finished with Bob in about a week and a half. If you know what I mean.
I reached out to Grumbine to see if he wanted, because he's also used to be a Austrian, big Ron Paul Rantoul thing.
Yeah.
Big libertarian kind of guy, and he just told me, I don't want anything to do with it. Mosler crushed Murphy back in that debate. End of story.
You asked Steve Grumbine if you what did you? I didn't even realize you. What did you ask him?
Just if he would have any tips for for another debate with Bob Murphy, because Grumbine definitely comes from that background as well. Anyway, so yeah, I think I mean, you're right. A couple of times you've pulled me up for being a bit too harsh on Bob, but that $7 an hour thing was very sociopathic, and it really steamed me up a bit. And so definitely, I'm not about cancel culture or killing people or dunking on them. Killing them intellectually. That is, I am actually for killing people intellectually. The ideas. Kill their ideas off. Kill bad ideas off is a good thing to do. You can have competition among ideas, and I'm all for some competition there. Certainly, we're on the losing side. No matter what Bob says, MMT is rising. It's all over social media. Blah blah blah. In terms of actual policy influence, it's still not very powerful yet. And maybe you could say Mosler made a case that MMT sort of style thinking sort of diffused a little bit into Biden administration, and but we all know that Rummy and Cheney were the original actual powerful MMTs. Yeah. So there's that as well. I just never mention them because I don't want to claim them on our side, but they were MMT essentially. Deficits don't matter. So anyway, yeah, the science diaries. All I wanted to do, that was just a note I made because I came across this Quinn's Ideas channel, and he was doing some really interesting stuff. He seems sort of politically aware, and just reminded me that Kim Stanley Robinson is a good sci-fi author and pretty solid MMTer. So yeah, if you like sci-fi, check out Quinn's Ideas. It's a really good YouTube channel if you have a spare lunch hour or half hour. And but it did make me wonder, there's a UBI dystopia thing in the Canadian sci-fi series The Expanse, and I just had this thought, why is all the sci-fi and cyberpunk stuff really dystopian? I'm ignoring Star Trek or whatever, but it's like that whole, let me just say, it's like that whole, bearish doomsayer type thing that a lot of sci-fi, which is, in a sense, imagining our future, some sense, some of it. It's kind of weird, I reckon, that it's more dystopian than just kind of boring, normal, hopeful stuff. And it doesn't sell books, right? Boring, normal, hopeful stuff doesn't sell sci-fi books. But anyway, that's just a few thoughts I had. What else?
I gotta derail this real quick. Eugenio, remind me. They used euro dollars though. They didn't just use euros, right? It was euro dollars, right? Yeah. We're talking Cyberpunk right now, which is a video game, and they use Eurodollars. So yeah, I had that wrong. That's right. They ended up using it. So yeah, dollars go away, Eurodollars take over. That is, I mean, yeah. That is a dystopian world then, because oh my God, there's like the Eurodollar is kind of fascinating when you think about it, right? Because it is it is a promissory note to return dollars to the owner of the Eurodollar, right? And dollars themselves are a non-backed IOU issued from the U.S. government, right? So we have. I mean, I know all of the banking system is IOUs on top of IOUs, but I'm reading the next comment. Cyber is using a currency that is just backed by a country that doesn't exist. Yeah, that's.
Oh wow. That's cool.
I mean, it's kind of a, it's kind of a mind bend.
Another game.
Oh yeah.
Another game.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a good. You should play it when you finally get back into gaming. That's right. All right, I'm gonna get back on. I'm gonna get back on track.
Gaming for me is programming for MMT Trader.
Ooh, yeah. Which we're getting close, baby. We're getting close.
There is a kind of interesting Spanish series, something about robbing gold, or the what's that Spanish series? Chat, help me out here. They do a big bank robbery of the they start printing their own money because they get into the Spanish mint.
Oh, you've mentioned this before. Yeah.
I don't
remember.
Oh, I've mentioned it before. Yeah, and then there's two seasons of it, I think. The first season they get into the mint and they just print money and escape with it. Money heist. Thank you, Eugenio. Money heist. And the second one is the good one though. It's like cringe, but it's actually a pretty good story to watch. It's kind of entertaining. And so then they want to rob the gold from the central bank, Spanish central bank. They rob the gold, melt it down. It's a cool kind of system, you know. You got to suspend a bit of disbelief about the engineering. But they melt the gold down while they're robbing the bank. It's just a big sort of like week-long heist, right? Melt all the gold down into fine-grained pellets, little tiny pellets that can be sent along plumbing pipes. So they have this plumbing pipe. They send it to a remote location where they use the gold to plate lead pellets, so fake gold bullion bars, right? So they have a thin gold lead line pellet. This is a spoiler. If you want to watch the series, don't listen to, go and take a break. I'm spoiling it because you don't learn about this until much later on in the story, at the very finale, I think. So they take all this gold, right? But then they give it all back. They give all the gold back, except mostly it's lead.
Yeah.
The country that doesn't exist, the gold that doesn't really exist. It's all just psychology.
It does.
Trust in our central bank because it's got gold somewhere underground. They'll never be used for anything.
It does. It does bother me when I watch like Star Wars, and you can tell George Lucas has thought through the banking system and the monetary system, but it's so bass backwards. Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't blame our writers.
They're on strike right now.
That's why I think Kim Stanley Robinson would be a good read. I reckon it'd be cool if The Expanse understood MMT too, but the dystopian of the UBI was necessary for The Expanse. The belter wala. So, forgive them that poor envisioning of the future there for that, because it just makes a good story, right? So.
It's all that matters. The story, baby. The story. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's why we love our politics, right? At least it tells a good story. It might run over tons of people's lives, but by God, it tells a good story. Let me look in my notes too, because I'm running out of ideas to talk about.
What?
Hit me up.
There's so many ideas.
Hit me up in
the and Mariah and that.
Hit me up in the old chat, guys. If you guys have any questions, bring them up. What do I got?
There was a good.
What do you got though?
What about putting up that bit from Ronnie Reagan? I reckon that's pretty hilarious.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you want to? Okay, I'll read it out. So Ryan from Applied MMT podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Listen to them.
Okay. Yeah.
He digs out this Secretary of the Treasury.
Yeah.
Thing from 1984.
Yeah.
Ronnie Reagan there. They were interested in whether government deficits matter, and so they figured out that government deficits don't really matter, and then they say there's this paragraph from Ronnie Reagan. I think this is the one. Let me just read it out, or you can put it on. I don't know if I can put it on screen. These findings, however, should not be construed as implying that deficits don't matter. Federal deficits. This is the key thing. If you're in the chat, just think about this. Federal deficits do absorb private savings that could be better utilized by business firms for investment in the production of goods and services most desired by consumers. It's a crowding out thing, right? Yet because taxation, this is the cool thing. Yet because taxation also absorbs private savings and creates disincentives for production, the only unambiguous way to reduce the government's claim on these savings is to restrain federal spending. Signed by Ronald Reagan. So deficits don't matter, but it's like it's so funny because he's talking out both sides of his mouth there. He's saying a force in the X direction causes acceleration in the negative X direction.
Yeah.
And at the same time causes acceleration in the positive X direction. That was highly embarrassing. It's like, oh my god, yeah. It's like this is stuff that people have signed as official US government whatever briefing papers, whatever that was. What was it? It was just from the US Treasury Department. Just a monograph or a note on the effects of deficits. It's so embarrassing. It's just basic, not understanding basic accounting framework. But I guess this was very, very pre-MMT. So I guess again, like the sci-fi writers, I can maybe forgive them.
This is I actually had a conversation today with an old pal. Went out to lunch today. Haven't seen him in a while. I was kind of telling him he's really into just kind of understanding where AI is headed, and just loves that whole conversation. He knows we've been doing a lot of work with it, and it's also just kind of curious about what sort of successes we were having. And he asked me, he's like, Doug, this all makes sense, but you're one of very few who kind of got this right, or at least are claiming, and everyone else saw it different. Pretty much, that is the definition of a crackpot, right? And I'm like, yeah. We think about this. I think about this quite often because I'm like the guy that's saying black holes don't exist, right? I'm like the physicist out there that's saying black holes. I've got this. I've got this intuitive thought that says black holes don't exist, right? And we would call those people crackpots. And so we were talking about this, and to a certain extent, you got to come up with an answer why you think you're the only one that was right and everyone else is wrong, sort of thing. And and I feel like this paper just proves, right, like exactly why everyone's wrong. And I told him kind of the anecdote of what Warren Mosler said, that the Fed is apparently running all the stuff that we do. They just can't they can't find the causal link because they're not looking in the opposite direction. And here's a paper from 1984 that essentially say that government deficits aren't doing what mainstream economists think they were. So 1984, right? It's 39 years ago.
84, yeah.
Yeah, it's 39. That's 39 years ago, right? So we've known this for 39 years. We've had empirical data to demonstrate this, right? Which ultimately MMT would demonstrate, and 40 years of progress would also demonstrate. But that's exactly. I mean, that's yeah. Jesus, another one of my victory laps. They're hard. They're hard not to toss in there. But
Yeah, I keep getting injured from too many victory
Yeah,
laps.
yeah,
Pulled a
yeah. I
hamstring
did.
the other day from my
Actually,
victory
oh
lap.
my God, actually I did. I upped my deadlift weight. I've got, kind of like a bulging disc, so I'm trying to be careful, but finally upped the deadlifting weight, and it was not good. I've been walking crooked the last few days. But anyway, I mean, this is it. There's such an institutional need for like an institutional momentum almost to have politicians. How do I phrase this? It gets votes to have people scared of the politicians
Yeah.
that they're not voting for, right?
Right.
And so, like, you have to sell that the government can be the bad guys to win in America. And the only way you can make that effective to a lot of people is to say, yeah, because they're stealing their wealth and redistributing it somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Myth.
And that's absolutely it, right? And that there will always be this fear that the government might get a little out of control. And
both the left and the right do it. And the centrists just enjoy it all.
Yes.
The best of misinformation for scaremongering. Thing is, Cheney and Rummy were MMTs, but they knew this too. So they went to the Samuelson defense. Got to keep the people ignorant because, otherwise they'll demand stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's really
demand a good life.
What's really wild to me, is that going back to Bob Murphy, is that he still, just even a few months ago, is talking about the crowding out effect. This is really what boggles my mind. Is I don't know. I thought I get why politicians are still saying China's, we're gonna pay back China, right? All that sort of stuff. Yeah, right. Our kids' future is owned by China and all that sort of stuff. But it's just mind blowing to me that after the last, from the post Great Financial Crisis forward, everything that we've actually had to witness, that sort of rhetoric is still seen, that there's a crowding out effect or anything. So yeah, I'm glad you brought up that. I looked at the report real quick. I didn't read it, but I'm glad you did and brought that up because it's exactly what they think is happening. Yeah, there might not be a observable effect, but hey, we still got it. We still got to toe the company line.
When you read that report, you can see their minds almost churning over, the cranks in their minds. Like, wait a minute, let's try and make this so that it works out for the elites. let's not. It's like almost they're getting towards MMT, but they're just sort of we've seen the dragon. Let's pull back a bit. So it's like, deficits don't matter, and it doesn't work the way we thought it does. But then they kind of stop there, and it's still just full peak, Reagan neoliberalism. Because in the ultimate end of the day, it's about power, and it's about they want to keep their foot on the masses, and they're scared of democracy. They're really scared of it, and so the whole mythology of the taxpayer funding the government is really perverse in a sense that it gives the taxpayer the feeling of power, and they're just being completely screwed at the same time. So it's a terrible myth, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I pay my taxes. And that's exactly what the conservatives and the centrists and the neoliberals want you to think. That it's just, I'm lost for words. I'm like you. It's mind-blowing that people more on the left of politics who are really, say they are into emancipation of the working class just haven't got it.
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah.
Why? Here it is. We're serving it up for you.
Yeah.
They're not coming and partaking or whatever. It's crazy to me. I don't know. I could probably even think of a story where a conservative would even want to expose MMT and learn about it, because what if you wanted to protect family values, conservative values, the Noam Chomsky type of conservative, shouldn't you also think that getting rid of extreme disparities in power and having a better democracy is better, because most people, are not ultra left woke, kind of crazy woke. I mean, wokeism is good in a sense, not wokeism, but the woke kind of ideals of more liberal democracy. But I mean, the extreme ones who want to get rid of families and get rid of, conservative ethos and that, they are a minority. And so a democracy actually favors the conservative. So why don't they want it either? I mean, it's like, so you can talk to both leftists and conservative righties, and I think they should both really be like lapping up MMT and like keen to learn about it. It's like, yeah, wow. But it doesn't seem to be yet taking off in a big way, despite what Bob Murphy will say. It's blowing up on social media and it's dangerous.
Dangerous. That Doug is so dangerous. There was an early aught song that had a tune about being dangerous, and he sings that. I mean, if you guys are in your late 30s, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That girl is so dangerous. I need someone to redo that song, but put Doug in instead of girl. I'd say put MMT in, but you can't. That's too many syllables.
Those syllables, they mess up the poetry.
They really do. They really do. Derek.
Oh, Ken PDX. Derek, yep, go ahead.
Derek, I'm ready to talk velocity of money. I don't know how we're going to do this. I would absolutely have you on if you want to chat. I don't want to put you on the spot to chat either. And if you're just happy to type in chat, that works as well, because I want to get to the bottom of this. But
that could get awkward.
I think I'm gonna have to reread through what you were saying, but I don't think I disagree that the velocity of M2, how do I want to put this? The velocity of money that the velocity, essentially, I guess what I'm trying to say is how I understand a purely endogenous money system, right? So when I look purely, so I'm taking the government out of this, a component of growth is the turnover of the existing money supply. Bijou, are you tracking what I'm saying to make sure I'm saying it?
Go ahead.
When I'm looking at purely an endogenous system, right? So that the turnover of the amount of money is a component of growth, and that if the turnover slows, that will slow growth down.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right in that, or am I wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think that's right.
Okay.
I mean, if you take away the this is the epiphenomenal, but if you took away the parasitic financial sector and didn't count any of those money flows, and you just looked at the real economy, sales of goods and services, then it's just an accounting, it's just an identity that the turnover of money, or the rate of change of credit, I guess, depends on your units, is going to be equal to the amount of output times the price level. So if the price level, if you just take as an example that the price level is fairly constant for short term, then I think I agree with what you're saying. And I didn't quite fully understand Derek's argument, but I remember having a discussion with Derek, and I was kind of getting there, but I had to move on to do something else. So I didn't quite fully get what he was talking about, that velocity doesn't matter. It's like, I don't know. I need to read more. Stuff.
Okay, Derek, how does this sound, man? We'll chat again offline, or I'll give some feedback on what it is that I think I'm understanding that you're arguing in the articles you sent me. I'll forward them off to Bijou too.
When you circulate $1 around, or you spend and earn all that, what's happening? On the other side, on the real side, you put a number in an account for $1 billion, but on the other side, an airplane gets shipped from here to there. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to think through. Derek, give us one more week. Next week we can definitely get into it. I think
Yeah.
I think
I think I was getting there. But also Derek is a bit of a Mosler kind of guy. He writes sort of very with good brevity, but sometimes it's a bit hard to read it because you have to sort of read it a few times.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to think through exactly why I think velocity matters in the first place. Now I agree. That M2 is a bad measurement for the money supply, and the velocity of money, the velocity of M2 is probably a bad way of getting at what it is that I think I'm trying to get at.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's maybe where we are going to end up coming into an agreement with.
That's right. It's the measure of velocity. I think that Derek's talking about that is commonly used. That is not all it is cracked up to be.
Yeah, and to that part, I agree. I mean, I think nothing's worse than when you're on Twitter and someone posts a chart of like M2 crashing or something like that. And it's exactly. To me, it's like literally putting like a Google map with like a dot in it that shows you where an airplane is at, but you don't know how fast the airplane is going. You don't know what direction the airplane is pointed. You just know that there's an airplane over Mississippi right now. Tell me where this thing's going to go. Great, man. Thanks. That's very helpful. You've left out all the important data that could possibly help me understand what the hell is happening with this airplane. Derek, we might just be on different definitions. So
it depends what money aggregate you call M. So I think MV has to be put together, and you just what is the M that people want to measure? I don't think they've got it right. So it's more about the credit because the credit creation is the main driver in the endogenous cycle, and what the whole dynamics of exogenous or vertical money from the government is a very different thing, because that's what's being used essentially to provide all the public services and infrastructure that support the economy. So massively important. But I don't think either the MMTs or Steve Keen or anyone has really told that story in a nice digestible form yet. I think there's some space there for educators like Derek to get in and say give that story. Yeah.
All right, anyway, we're in the third hour, so we can go off. We can go off the rails.
I might have to retire. I'm getting a bit hot.
And it's cold where you're at, so so if you're getting hot, we might be able to wrap this one up early if you'd like. All right, so on the dock for next week, we're gonna figure out credit stuff. I'm sorry, we're gonna figure out velocity. That will definitely. Oh, you want to hear more about the AI? Yeah, I can go over that on the way out here. Actually, some of it on my show. Well, do I want to do this? Because I've definitely ran into some things that I want to make better, but maybe it's worth. Maybe it's worth kind of sharing what it is that I'm finding. I'm trying to think how I want to do this.
Is it the output of the AI that you want to discuss, or the inputs? Because it's early days on inputs and building an ecosystem of these neural networks. I mean, they're not AI yet because they don't talk to Douglas.
That'll be the day. God, I saw a great video. Derek, specifically, what do you want to hear more about? Fill me in there.
Oh yeah, Ken. That's right. Is it African or European? Right.
Let's see. There's a great video, Bijou. You got to watch it if you're just chilling in bed, recovering some more. Okay, you're looking for my stuff. Yeah. What? God. It was called AI is Not Real. What was her? we've AI Does Not Exist by
Angela Collier.
yeah. Okay, so she had a video. It's an hour. It's only like 45 minutes is the actual video, and then she trails off at the end. But it's well worth it. Let me pull it up. I hope I don't want it to play. Oh, that did play, didn't it? Could you guys hear that? I don't think you could. I think that was just okay, good. I think that was just. Anyway, Bijou, she had a really good video. She's quickly becoming one of my favorite YouTubers. I like her humor is
tonal humor.
Yeah, it's right up my alley, man. It's hilarious. Yeah. Anyway, this is a video. AI does not exist, but it will ruin everything anyway. Dude, she hit on like everything you were saying. I mean, essentially, she brings up two great examples. By the way, Mark, I can hit on Turkey in just a second, but she brings up two examples. The one is they had this app that like checks skin diseases, and since all of human history up until like 10 years ago, all of medical pictures and everything that were ever documented were all done on white people because that's just the world that we lived in. It didn't know what the AI, thousands of pictures, the AI machine didn't know what skin diseases looked like on other other ethnic skin types, and would just misdiagnose it or not even notice these skin diseases, which is just like. And her big thing is there are going to be people who haven't thought through all of this and are going to make these AI machines. And she's absolutely right. I mean, that is absolutely. And then, her big punchline is always, that's because AI doesn't actually exist. It can't tell you what it's doing. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and that is going to be, that's going to be the real problem long term. And you're right. You're absolutely right. That's how this thing is going to just get abused.
Yeah. Certification.
Yes. Yeah. The other thing too is governments are going to waste, especially like governments that are currency users. So like state governments and stuff are just going to blow through money on just completely wasteful, like AI tech, right? There is going to be a government-fueled AI boom that's just completely wasteful as well, because
possibly.
Yeah,
they're already using a lot of good algorithms in government, but it's just a matter of, is the sort of lower level bureaucrat, competent in, choosing software that just does the job. If you got software that just does the job, allocating, you need some plumbing fixed or something fixed somewhere, because people's municipal water supply is not working well. Don't need an AI to sort that out. You just need an expert system to allocate your plumbing or constructor or contractor resources well. So it could hopefully a lot of basic government services are not all that like rocket science that they'll need any AI. But I agree, there might be some banana brains who just, the tech lobbyists are going to be pushing it, right? Here we have this product. You should use it. Government bureaucrat,
exactly
has the power to actually sign off on that. They might actually sign off on it. When in reality, what's so sad is that so many of the government bureaucrats could just be doing the stuff themselves, right? It's the AI. If they really can think of a deep learning model that would benefit them, right? They could just build it themselves, right? Because if you have the labeled data and you have the internal expertise and you've done the hard research, right? You don't need to pay some other company to do that work to build a model, right? It's relatively simple stuff. The tough stuff is actually knowing the data that you have to play with. Agreed. You could get all these proliferation of these contractors who are really not doing much value add, but are selling government departments and agencies.
Exactly.
Which Swiss bang products like you need this, Grammarly or whatever it is, AI
Exactly.
Grammarly or something.
Exactly.
No, but for that gets on to sort of what Derek was asking about with the algorithms, because you could maybe give a brief thing about what the deep MMT does is, combine convolutional neural networks with an LSTM.
Yeah.
That's how you're doing it. So we're not doing any of this other Finbro social data mining or anything. We're just using freely available fiscal flow data from the Fed, and that's how we're doing deep MMT.
I'll get into that in just a second. I can at least kind of I can definitely speak
I might have to let you go solo on that.
All right. We can wrap it up this week. Let me just at least get to this turkey question, and I'll tell you. Not that Warren's
everyone's favorite.
Warren's absolutely right that higher interest rates are going to cause inflation. Right. I mean, right. I'm not in that lower interest rates would help stymie inflation. Right. But I don't wish he would do anything different. I just, whenever anyone asks me about any country, the very first thing I type in, does country X have dollar denominated debt? Just look at the result. The total external debt of Turkey was 500 billion in 2018. They issued 50 billion in external debt last year, 18 billion in bonds with 7.6 denominated maturing. To me, the discussion about the impact of interest rates on inflation or disinflation or whatever is pointless the minute a country decides to denominate or issue debt and currency that's not their own. The dynamics are you're going to end up with inflation pressure when you start doing stuff like that.
Sheer madness.
And you're only going to exacerbate it too when you do put interest rates higher, because there's going to be such a huge incentive, right? I mean, if you're a bondholder and you get paid whatever Turkey is, what, lira, right? I think.
Yes.
You get your monthly 10,000 lira check from your bonds. You're just going to immediately go buy dollars with that, right? I mean, so there's just there's this constant selling that takes place, and because then ultimately the government's going to need to acquire those dollars somehow. So I bring that up to say I don't think that Turkey can just get rid of. If you had one choice to try and end the inflation that they're experiencing, the first thing that has to happen is they just have to get out of this game of issuing dollar-denominated debt. Then they can start to drop. Then they can start to drop interest rates lower, they should just start by dropping interest rates lower. But then the effect of the lower interest rate should start to take over. So to me, that's where I feel like you got to begin the discussion. But
I think so.
That is.
But and how to get out of it? I think Ken PDX is right. You could just default.
Yeah,
it's pretty hilarious, right? Didn't like Argentina default. And Mexico, I think, also, and then they then went back to
go right back at it,
right back at borrowing from the IMF. It's just madness. It's like they realized they could default, but then no, we have to cripple ourselves again.
Yeah, let's do it again. Yeah, the IMF
in order to serve our USA masters.
Yeah.
Commies coming in and invading us.
Yeah. I benefit from that. Let's not bite the hand that feeds us. I'm kidding.
Oh no.
All right. I knew Bijou's got to go. Bijou, rest up, man. I hope you come back next week feeling better, feeling stronger, all that good stuff. So
I've got a new system. So I've got a new system for determining your age in years.
Okay.
Yeah. So you get a common garden variety flu.
Okay.
You count how many days it takes to recover. So 5 days. Add 2. That's your age in years. So when I was, it only worked. You have to start though when you're there's a lower limit. You have to start when you're 10 in your tens or something like that. Maybe
Okay.
it works when you're younger. I think when I was a kid, I was probably recovering in 2 days, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably was. Yeah. And if you it's fine grain, right? You can figure out like recovered in 2.5 days. So you get your age down to the nearest 6 months, maybe.
And then
sorry,
adds.
no, there's decades.
Yeah,
To nearest
yeah.
decade, right? Sorry,
Yeah.
got my units wrong. Decades. You get your age down to nearest plus or minus 5 years, maybe. Yeah. So, in case you ever forget.
My age. I'll just catch a flu.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. All right,
Anyway.
Bijou, I'm going to assume you don't have an outro for tonight, so
I could do. Did I ever do the ode to the platinum coin?
I mean, I know you did one way back when, but if you want to fire it off again, I did. I mean, I remember.
I might have a second one.
Okay, yeah. Let's fire it off. Let's do it.
Hang on. Did I?
Or do you want to hold it off for next week when you're healthy?
No. In case I already did it before, this is a repeat. You're getting reruns here of high quality MMT poetry. Okay, ode to the platinum coin. Yeah, maybe this one. In the land of pounds and pence hallucination, there was a treasury deacon of inflation. A single coin of platinum he did juggle, enough to worry an unwary muggle. By George, he cried, a gleam in his sight, this coin could vanquish our economic plight. Less preposterous than the invisible market stalk or the fairy tale of self-regulating pork. The owls and chickens did hoot and cluck. Such folly, dear sir, will bring us no luck. A coin won't fix our fiscal rue, just as a snail can't stage a rapid coup. But the secretary, with a cackle and grin, held high the coin above the policy din. Austerity's a tougher jake, me mates, makes us skinny, while the rich rob from our plates and prance around like bloated apes. With a grand gesture, she tossed the coin high into the blue of the fiscal sky, laughing as she dispelled economic gloom. And that, dear friends, is how you boom and then bust open at hope in an afternoon.
Bravo.
For more high quality
Bravo. That was a new one, man. That was a new one.
Next time, same MMT time, same MMT channel.
Everyone, thanks for joining tonight, everybody. It's been a blast.
Thanks, everyone.
We will be back same time next week. Take care. See you guys all next week.
Take care.